I have to say, the way Sid will make this dramatic entrance to then seemingly get killed from the character's points of view, only to have Shadow come in Superman style, glasses on, oh, that's just Clark Kent, glasses off, oh shit, it's Superman. The way the characters are like, holy shit, it's Shadow, just, it's hilarious, man. I love how this show takes all of those, like, basic-ass elements that we've come to know and love, or even know and hate about shows, and the fact that it just almost is like this amazing parody that takes itself so seriously, but not serious, all mixed into one, and you end up getting the Eminence and Shadow is pretty fantastic. And, I mean, while watching this episode, I was like, oh shit, this is gonna be a villain origin story, isn't it? And while it's still up in the air, there's one thing that's guaranteed. Sherry wants to kill Shadow, and is unaware that the man she fell in love with, Sid, is the man that she hates and is basically blaming for the death of her father, not knowing how much of a scumbag her father truly was. There is a full live reaction available on the Patreon if you're interested in seeing my full thoughts on the episode. But let's break this one down, because this was a fantastic episode, one of the strongest of the 9 episodes for sure, and makes me so happy that this isn't a 10 or 12 or 13 episode anime. I'm so happy it's a 20 episode back to back, because apparently this episode just finished the first light novel. The fact that 9 episodes took to make this light novel pop, I mean, I would have guessed at least 2. I mean, that feels like how much content we've actually progressed through. But the fact that this was just one light novel and it was this interesting, this hilarious, this badass, I mean, I gotta hand it to both the author and the team adapting this, because this didn't feel slow, it didn't feel fast, it felt like the right pacing, with more reveals than a lot of shows have in 3 or 4 light novels, so it's pretty impressive. The thing I like about this episode is that when you look at it from Sherry's point of view, like, we've seen this a lot. Hell, the first Spider-Man movie from Sam Raimi, you know, the whole Green Goblin, you know, Harry Osborn twist of blaming Spider-Man for what happened, right? Like, we've seen these types of tropes before. I love the fact that they took it and they just somehow made me invested in it, even though I've seen it a dozen times at this point. And the fact that you have someone like Sid who very much is looking at this dude as a scumbag, because not only did you like forcibly adopt a daughter that wasn't yours, you killed her mother because she wouldn't give you a bad device. The dude literally in this episode, when he's explaining why he killed the mother, he's like, oh, I asked her for it and she said it was too dangerous. So I threw a temper tantrum and I cut her to pieces. And I'm like, this dude's a psycho, man. And the fact that Sid did the exact same thing back to him, I absolutely love that. And I like how rather than, you know, her just immediately picking up a sword and trying to stab him or something, because that's usually how these scenes go, you know, pulling the dead sibling or the dead parent's hand, and here's clearly the one responsible. I pick it up, I'm not strong enough, but someday I'll get strong enough. Instead, she was just crying and he left. And the fact that as soon as you see Sid and her talk the next day, you could tell there was something off about her. The way she was smiling, it was perfect on paper. The smile was there, the pleasantries were there, but it felt like her smile was almost being held down by weights, like there was just one wrong move, one wrong word, and she would just frown or become psychotic. Throughout the conversation of her saying, I need to leave, I need to go do this, you see a brief moment of her snapping before coming back to, and I don't know if we'll ever see this character again, at least in this anime season, that is. We do have a lot of episodes left, but you never know where the story goes. It shifts perspective, characters come back, dozens of novels later, you don't know exactly. But I think for what, you know, Sherry started out as kind of like bumbly girl who bumped in, fell in love, I thought it was kind of a funny, goofy character. I actually like that they made the whole father-daughter-mother dynamic there actually a lot more compelling than shows that take themselves way more serious than Eminence of Shadow ever does, and it's pretty fantastic for it. I mean, it was pretty clear watching early into this episode that the father was going to be the knight. I think once you have Sherry basically saying, like, where is he? I can't see him. I mean, there's only one person responsible that, you know, you could actually pin the armor on, but I like how it is so dramatic, it is so, like, any other show would be way more serious, but I like the fact that when you look at the fight scenes, right, this is the second time in a row, the last time when you had that psychotic I am atomic scene, right, when Sid was doing swordplay, he just held his sword up and literally didn't move a muscle as this dude's just slashing and dicing, and you can see his sword just, like, wobbling and his sweat's pouring from his brow. It's just, I love the fact that Sid is literally just so OP, but you get to see these scenes in typical fashion that are usually a lot more dramatic, as if, oh, you know, this is the big bad of an arc, we're gonna give it our all, we're gonna be sweating, we're gonna be very worried about what's happening. Instead, Sid's just almost deadpan, hardly doing anything. Sometimes he'll go, I am atomic, or he'll just you know, in this case, get sweet revenge for a poor mother who deserves so much better, as this dude just makes himself look crazier and crazier, as you're like, you're just destroying your body for literally no reason, you're giving this dramatic speech, and you just sound cringe as shit, my dude. And then obviously we see how it goes from there. Like, Sid's such an interesting persona because he's both, like, he's 50% background character, but then 50% main character, but you never quite know which one of the two you'll get, because you can look at it from, I mean, this episode, that's the most background character, seemingly death, to then switch Spider-Man style ever. Oh shit, that ain't Peter Parker, that's Spider-Man for sure. I love the fact that he gets blown out the window for then Shadow to come in. It's pretty brilliant because he made himself look super important to then immediately get destroyed, and then the real threat comes in for him. But then you look at the beginning of this arc when the school's initially being invaded, you have just such a ridiculous but perfect background character death on paper. The random character no one gives a shit about gets sliced and protects the important girl. The only thing is that that was without a doubt a death. So for him to come back to school the next day or to talk to any of these characters, whether in this arc or in next ones, like, it makes him look a lot more important. And I love how Sid he kind of tiptoes the line of, is what he's saying actually making sense, or is he just so in his own world that for him it makes sense, but anyone else looking, they're saying this dude's the most important person ever. And that's kind of the fun of the Eminence show, is that you never quite know what you're gonna get. Sid sitting on a windowsill reading a book looking important doesn't necessarily mean he'll get blasted out a window for Shadow to come in and save the day. He could have actually just solved everything. He could have accidentally just killed or on purpose killed this horrible scumbag, and then Sherry saw it, and, you know, we could have gone that direction. There's a lot of ways they can go with it, but the fact that Shadow just never fails to just say, we're going to take all those things you love or hate about all these different shows, and we're just gonna turn it into the Eminence of Shadow, and it works every damn time. I really like the production. I love how the flames were animated. I mean, they literally burst this entire school into flames, and I like when blood's present, right? You know, they kind of go overreactive with the whole, like, just, oh, they slice someone in, it's like a fountain of blood squirting. But there's something about the way they detail blood that doesn't make it feel edgy, doesn't make it feel overly gory. It's stylistically impressive. And just everything about this show is just, it brings a grin to your face. You know, they can casually take everything I've seen in anime, light novels, Western TV, and movies, and just turn it into something that's tiptoes the line of parody and serious into such a weird anomaly that I think should either feel like, oh, it should commit to this one more than it commits to this one, but somehow the blend of serious meets parody just, it works so well. And why I'm so glad, like, we do have so many more episodes left to go, because if this was only, you know, a 12 or 13 episode run, like, that would be a damn shame. 20 episodes just feels like the perfect length, especially if we are only, you know, one light novel in officially now. And I mean, I would imagine we'll probably finish at least the second one before this all wraps up. I don't know the length of them all, but it just feels like the right pacing, right? It just feels like you can tell things aren't being cut, things aren't being skimmed out. They're just taking their time, they're fleshing out where they need to, and in doing so, we're getting one of the best anime of the season, and in my honest opinion, one of the strongest anime of this year, which is saying a lot given the quality anime productions we have been experiencing. But either way, I'll leave another episode very happy, very impressed with Sid's whole dynamic, and just where Shadow Garden's gonna go from here. So thoughts and feelings yourself down below, leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new around here. As I said, you can consider supporting the Patreon if you want to see my full live reaction to today's episode, and you can also get video shows like a few are getting today. So we got the Bird of Hermes, Curtis Atkinson, and Itai Mullum. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care. Have a good one.